Good morning, sisters and brothers. This is, of course, Tuesday, and it's Tuesday tune-up time. We're doing something just a bit different this Tuesday. We are sitting here actually with a group of parishioners. We've just been having a little coffee chat, and a couple of questions have come up around what is a bishop? What does a bishop do? We're in the midst of searching for a new bishop here in the Diocese of Nevada. What does all that mean? So we thought we would just knock out one of our Tuesday tune-up videos with a live studio audience who's going to be here to keep us on track and ask some questions. So if you hear some milling around in the background, that's what we have. To begin, let's start with what exactly is a bishop? Well, it's a good question.
Very good question. I wonder myself sometimes.
Sometimes I wonder. And, oh boy, I had a wonderful scripture all set up here, which I am not finding right now. Here we go, from Acts. Now many signs and wonders were done among the people through the apostles, and they were all together in Solomon's portico. None of the rest dared to join them, but the people held them in high esteem. Yet more than ever, believers were added to the Lord, great numbers of both men and women. So they even carried out the sick into the street and laid them on cots and mats in order that the apostles' shadow might fall on some of them as they came by. So bishops really are the modern day heirs, if you will, to the apostles. Jesus appointed the apostles, charged them with the Great Commission, go and share the good news with all the world, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And these apostles became the first bishops. They built churches. Think about Paul, for example. Paul went to Ephesus, built a church there, stayed for a while, taught them, trained some local people, some presbyters, as we would call them, priests, and left them in charge of the local church while he went off to start more churches. We have that same model here. So bishops in the church are over a lot of churches. They function in this world over a diocese, which is, in our case, it is all of Nevada as well as Bullhead City, Arizona. Little thing there, don't ask. But they're part of us, and we're happy to have them, and we love them. So we have a very large geography, but we're actually a very small diocese when you think about it. Chris and I serve here locally at the church, but it is the bishop's church. So Bishop Jim is going to be with us next month for confirmation and reception, and you will notice that my role will change dramatically. I will not be the celebrant. I will not be the preacher. I'm basically here to be, well, whatever he wants me to be. I will fetch and carry, and I will do whatever I need to do to make him welcome, because when the bishop is here, it's the bishop's church.
I'm so confident in his abilities, I'm going to do supply at another parish locally.
Well, we have to share the wealth a little bit every once in a while. We do have some excess wealth here at Epiphany.
I have a question from Epiphany. Let's just call that person Bob or Jane Newcomer. And they say they've been here 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks right now, and that the Diocese of Nevada is going to choose a bishop in October. Then who is this Jim Wagner fella? I bet you there are people who have been with us a few months who are wondering that and don't get this at all.
Great question. So our diocesan bishop is elected from among the electors. Who are the electors? It's all of the clergy who are resident in the diocese. It is the wardens of each parish, and it is delegates that each parish elects at their annual meeting. So at Epiphany, we elected 4 delegates, 2 wardens, we've got a couple of clergy, so there will be 8 of us who will be electing the next bishop of Nevada, the next diocesan bishop. We're doing this because our previous bishop retired, and he has been retired now for quite a while. It's been about 3 years now, and so we've been in this sort of interim period. Note I use that word intentionally because we have a mindset here. When a rector leaves a parish, it's very common for the parish to bring in an interim rector, which is somebody to just sort of serve that middle period and help that transition. The same is true with the diocese. So Bishop Jim Wagner is not the Bishop of Nevada. He is actually the retired Bishop of Spokane, Washington, but he is working as our assisting bishop on a part-time basis to help our diocese do the things that only a bishop can do.
Questions from the live studio audience. Mr. Gary.
What is the role of a full-time bishop other than confirmation and reception and going to a church once a year? What is the day-to-day operation, especially without the support staff of a larger diocese, as opposed to Nevada, which is a smaller diocese?
Well, in any diocese, there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of administration, there's a lot of coordination by and between the different parishes. The bishop's role is to be sort of pastor pastorum, which means pastor to all the pastors. So the bishop is the head clergy in the diocese, and they're essentially our pastors. But their role also is to be that communication hub between different churches and different clergy. You guys can come on. We're just filming a video, so have a seat. So their role is to be that sharer of stories, that intermediary, if you will, and in addition to that, to be that sharer outside of the diocese. So bishops work with other bishops from other dioceses to share mission and share story and bring good practices back and forth. It goes right back to what the apostles were doing back in the day. You know, if something good was happening in Corinth, Paul was letting the church in Ephesus know about it. Bishops' jobs are very much like that to this very day.
So they also have a lot of hands-on administrative stuff that they must do in a smaller diocese.
Oh yeah, well, all dioceses have a lot of administrative functions. All parishes have administrative functions. You know, that it takes a lot to keep the train rolling. And the bishop's job is to sort of be, again, that intermediary between the parish level and the national church. And so there's a lot of communication and a lot of paperwork, quite honestly, that goes back and forth. Our diocese will be a little bit different than some of the larger dioceses in terms of staffing, because we have a rather small staff. We're not a very large diocese. Now, what I mean by that is we're not a very large in population diocese. We are a very large geographic diocese. In the Diocese of Connecticut, for example, you can drive across the entire diocese in about 4 hours. Here in Nevada, it takes about 12 hours to get across the whole state. But Connecticut has something like 150 parishes. We have 31, I think. Don't quote me on that. I think it's 31.
I happen to know Connecticut has 176, just as I personally know Ian Douglas, their bishop.
There you go.
And to use 4 hours to go from one end of Connecticut to the other, you got to hit traffic.
Right.
Otherwise,
right.
2 hours, 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's... So there are great disparities, but a diocese like that may have a staff of 20 people. We have a staff, I think, of 3. So our new bishop is going to really be sort of a hands-on bishop. They're going to roll up their sleeves early on, and I've had an opportunity to meet all 4 of our candidates, and they're an impressive group of folks. If you haven't taken the opportunity, go to the diocesan website and you can look at video presentations of a lot of the different Q&As they've done, as well as sermons that each of these 4 priests have done, so you can kind of get a flavor as to who you think might be well suited, might be called by the Spirit to be our next bishop. Yes, go ahead, Zeth.
If we're such a small diocese, why don't we, be absorbed by another one? What would be that?
That is obviously that is a thing. That is a part of our challenge. Is it costs a lot to fund a diocese and to keep it functioning, and we are a rather small diocese, and yet, as I pointed out already, geographically we are a very large diocese. So we're not really at that point. But there are dioceses in the Episcopal Church who are doing things like that. In Michigan, for example, the Diocese of Western Michigan and the Diocese of Eastern Michigan are now sharing the services of the same bishop. For I think Erie, Pennsylvania and Western New York are doing the same thing. Vermont actually has just announced that they're going to start to look for that type of situation. We are a denomination whose numbers are shrinking somewhat, and it is something to consider. But from our perspective, I'm much more hopeful that we're going to get a bishop in here who can really help to enliven us, to help build upon some of the great things that are already going on. This diocese, over the last 10-year period, is the only United States Episcopal diocese that has grown instead of shrunk. So that's a real point in our favor, and I know that that's not lost on our bishop candidates. They're aware of that. So hopefully they'll be in a position to build upon the great foundation that our former Bishop Dan Edwards left for them. And rumors of our demise are greatly exaggerated. Let's put it that way. I still think that there's great times ahead for us. So while there is that opportunity, if we ever get to that point, I don't think we're going to need that.
Yeah, and it's nothing that needs to be all sorted out this week or this year, as Rick says.
Right.
There are way more positive options that we have in front of us in terms of just being a vital, Jesus-seeking and Jesus-proclaiming state of Nevada.
Yeah.
I think we're
running low on time, but one more question.
One more. Is it also up to the bishop to make sure that each of the parishes have sufficient priests or leaders for services? And is it
that's one of the major jobs.
Switch around and move priests around?
Well, bishops typically don't move priests around. We're not like the Roman Church where we sort of are at the pleasure of the bishops. The rectors, for example, it's sort of a two-party agreement between the rector and the parish. But bishops do deal with a lot of deployment issues. And I know in our diocese, we have a lot of churches that are looking for priests to be able to administer the sacraments. So that'll probably be one of the major jobs that our new bishop faces, is trying to fill some of the open churches right now. And that's why it'll be great to have a bishop come in who has a deep Rolodex. Well, did I just say Rolodex? I just aged myself deeply. But you know what? Y'all know I'm old. A deep Rolodex of contacts around the country who can make some phone calls on their rotary dial phone and see if they can get with the cord, yeah, and see if they can attract some good quality priests to come and be part of this growing and vital diocese.
That includes two people who are being called to the priesthood. A good bishop has a godly and sacred vision of who will proclaim the gospel best. And that includes not only just being able to pray, but maybe administrative skills. So she or he will filter out, offer strong guidance as to who gets ordained or not, in addition to the people they already know ordained for filling.
Right.
But in the long run, they want to make sure that people coming to that are within this range of vision and not just anything goes, or the diocese starts to look like that.
So we're running long on time, but we will elect the next bishop at our diocesan convention in early October. And then in March, that bishop will be consecrated. Presiding Bishop Michael Curry will be coming to town and holding that consecration service. It should be a joyous and wonderful event. And then the new bishop is going to have their freshly dressed purple shirt, and they'll hit the ground running.
We hope.
We hope.
We hope.
All right. Thank you, my friends. God bless you.
God bless you.